In this video episode, I'm going to be talking and walking you through the top 10 hikes of 2020 and the ones that I enjoyed. Um, and I wanted to share those hikes with you with some key historical details and some fun trivia facts, and show some good shots of the trail that I enjoyed in this episode. So let's go take a look at from the 10 down to my most favorite in 2020. The number 10 hike in the top 10 hikes for 2020 is actually the Wildwood Trail hike. It's part of the Forest Park trail system, a trail system that was officially open to the public in 1948 after a group of visionary leaders fought for and pulled it away from the clutches of the building quartet and converted that into a multi-use trail system which can be used and shared by bikers, runners, hikers, as well as equestrian. It's a beautiful trail system right in the midst of Portland, and the Wildwood Trail, among the many other trail systems that intersect each other, is from Newbury End Road End towards the zoo, is about roughly 29-30 miles of this trail. So this I did on the Wildwood Trail. I was able to go all the way 25 miles round trip, and for a total elevation, net elevation gain of about 3,000 miles on a beautiful day. The next hike, which is in number 9 position for the 2020 hike, is the Soda Peaks Lake, which is located about 15 miles north of the town of Carson in Washington State. And this is a beautiful trail, but generally it's not very crowded. It's an 11-mile hike up over Lenplus firs, redwood cedars, and hemlock, and all kinds of giant trees, old growth forest. And you finally eventually get up to the summit after a grueling 3,000 foot elevation gain. And then the summit is at about approximately 3,800 feet. And at 3,800 feet, there's a beautiful lake. There's plenty of trout. And up until recently, probably 2019, there used to be campsites around the lake. But in 2020, when I visited this earlier this summer, the campsites were removed, and signs said no camping allowed, kind of thing. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But it's a beautiful lake. I've seen people swimming in that lake, and even fishing. And summer, if you time it right, if you go there something like September, there's plenty of huckleberries. In fact, it starts a half mile to the summit, and all around the lake, luscious, sweet huckleberries you can pick to your fill. All right, now let's take a look at a few of these clips from that hike. Thank you. The McNeil Point hike from the Top Spur trailhead is about somewhere between 10.5 and 11 miles, depending upon the how people walk and the path they take. Between 10.5 and 11 miles hike, and in all gaining about 2,200 feet, and meandering its way through beautiful alpine meadows and trails. And eventually you would get to a stone shelter that was built during the early part of the 1900s that still stands today, robust, and probably is going to last a long time, but it's being maintained. And that's at about an elevation of 6,100 feet. And if you still have the wherewithal and energy, you can continue up the ridge to a height of about 7,100 feet and have an up-close look, which is the true McNeil Point, and to the northwesterly side of Mount Hood. Enjoy the views. Not many people go up there because it's a narrow path, and it's quite windy and exposed, and fewer people get there, but you would get one of the best views that you could at the northwesterly side of Mount Hood. Sit there, meditate if you will, and take in the beautiful views on a clear day, and head back down the same way. The Timothy Lake Loop hike is a approximately 14-mile hike around the lake. It's a beautiful, huge lake. It's a multi-use system, trail system around the loop: camping, fishing, biking, running, you name it. But I took the trail around the lake for a loop of 15 miles, starting from the Timothy Lake Dam Tail Trailhead. And you get some spectacular views of the Mount Hood, as well as the huge 1,500 acre lake. And along the way there is a namesake Crater Lake, nowhere and no comparison to the mighty Crater Lake in southern Oregon, but it's got some. It's a very small miniature one with clear waters, and probably for about 75 feet down below you can see the waters through. It's clear. And other than that, usually the trail is not very busy with the people, because much of the people who go there are on the lake, either boating, fishing, or camping in the countless campsites that's spread around the lake. The Loowit Falls hike, starting from the Johnston Ridge, is an approximately 15-mile round trip with a 2,500 feet gain and a high point of approximately 5,000 feet, looking directly into the blast zone from the north side of Mount St. Helens. And this trail is not to be underestimated. There is practically zero tree cover and no water sources. And if it is summer, you really to be on your guard and be prepared. When I did this hike with a friend, he nearly had a sunstroke. So it's a tough hike, and but you get some real spectacular views in the plains of Abraham, and along the northern side, walking along those blast zones. It looks so surreal even today, that the remains of the blast is visible all around. And finally, the falls itself is not a super duper falls something like the McNeil Falls, but it's nevertheless a beautiful falls. You can't get too close to it, but you can get to within about I don't know, about a couple hundred feet on the slopes of rocky ledge. Um, South Sister is approximately 12 miles round trip with a 5,500 feet gain from the south side from the Devil's Lake trailhead. It's a steep right off the bat, and then it goes flat, and then it's very steep after that. So pretty much the distance is divided into 1/3 each. Steep, flat, steep. And you got a huge summit plateau where you walk across a glacier and then up to the true summit. The last 1 mile is really a backbreaker, and but once you get to the very top of the summit, you would see the middle and the North Sister, Mount Bachelor, Broken Top, and Three Finger Jack, and pretty much a lot of the southern Cascade peaks would be in view. It's generally is pretty cold and windy up there, but it's a beautiful hike. Don't underestimate this hike, and in fact, it climb to say to say the truth. Many people have gotten lost because they've underestimated and veer off the trail, and I personally had escorted a person back on the trail when she was lost, and so it's not to be underestimated. It's a difficult hike. The Yocum Ridge hike, this is approximately 20 miles and 3,800 feet hike, starting from the Ramona Falls trailhead. Up to the Ramona Falls, it's going to be pretty busy with a lot of people on the trail, bustling, but once you pass the Ramona Falls, the hike up to the Yocum Ridge begins in earnest, and there's hardly anybody on the trail for an occasional backpacker maybe. But other than that, it's quite secluded, and if that's what you prefer. Eventually, you'll pass through a lot of alpine meadows, and especially in summer, it's a visual treat for the eye with all the beautiful flowers out there on the meadows. And as you get closer to the top of the ridge, you would be looking directly into the Reed Glacier, and get some spectacular view of Mount Hood from the westerly side. And when I was on top of the ridge, I even saw a black bear grazing down below, foraging for food, and this was in summer, so it is fun. Mount Washington, a shield volcano in Central Oregon, is located in the Mount Washington Wilderness. This is a 12-mile round trip and over 33,000 feet elevation gain. The trail is not that great in shape. There's a lot of downed trees, and I'm not sure, it doesn't seem like it's being very well maintained. But nevertheless, the views are great around it and along the trail. And as you get closer to the ridge line itself from the north side, which is the only trail that people hike these days, with all of the trails being, with all of the sides of the mountain being very difficult to climb. The north side trail, as we get onto the ridge, gets very steep. The trail is not very clearly and well defined. The rocks are pretty decayed. And I got as far as to the base of the central lava plug, because the final scramble of about a couple hundred feet is class 5 rock climbing that requires roping up and a technical climb. So we went as far as we could safely and then descended back down the mountain and to the trailhead. Mount McLoughlin climb from the Mount McLoughlin trailhead is a 12-mile and approximately 4,500 feet of elevation gain. This is an extremely tough hike, partly because it's rocky for a good part of the hike, and the last half a mile is rocky and scree-laden, and making the climb up pretty difficult. And the other thing to watch out for is the mosquitoes. They are so vicious, they'll practically eat you alive. You probably want a mosquito mesh to cover your face as well, and a good mosquito repellent to protect you from these vicious creatures. And I started from the McLoughlin trailhead rather than the summit trailhead, which is lower down and longer, so that you could climb the mountain in time and get back to the trail well in time. I was supposed to climb this in 2016, mixed due to a conflict, and then eventually made this up in 2020. The Old Snowy and Ives hike peak is by far the best hike I've had in 2020, partly because of challenges, and secondly, it's a twin summit, and thirdly, the beautiful views along the Snowgrass Flats. Now you start in the Snowgrass Flats trailhead, and this is a 15-mile round trip, over 15 miles actually, and over 4,500 feet of elevation gain. The trail is pretty good all the way to the old Snowy Summit, because that is climbed quite often by the hikers, and you get some beautiful views of the meadows along the way. You would get views of Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, Helens, not not Hood actually. It's actually Helens and Rainier, and but once you're up at the summit of Old Snowy, you have to traverse over along the ridge line to an old arch, and from the arch you further traverse down to the Ives Peak, which is approximately at about 9,800 feet. The trail is not clearly defined. It's rocky and pretty treacherous, and then on the way down there's no clear defined path either, so you gotta